pleased to say that I am endorsing Judge Rosson.
Thank you.
That during the campaign trail, it was a pleasure. A lot of times I got to be seated next to you, and even though we were opponents, I can tell you there was no animosity, there was no negative feelings ever, and you made me feel very comfortable, and I really appreciate that. And I thought, coming from somebody who has donated as much time and as much energy to the city, that that just really went to the integrity of yourself, really, more so than even your position. I was incredibly pleased throughout that we were able to run the campaign that we did, because there was never any hard feelings on my side, and I don't believe there was any ever hard feelings on your side. And it was with pleasure that I absolutely endorsed Judge Rosson. His experience is second to none. Like I said, his integrity, I think, is beyond dispute. And honestly, I think that Knox County and Knoxville specifically is very lucky to have you. And
Thank you.
And we're staying in this courtroom that honestly is first time I've been in here. So, and it's a testament that I know where you began over there and that where you've gotten. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you very much. Thank you for your very kind words. I'm very honored to have the endorsement and the support of Andrew Beamer and Mary Ward. Unfortunately, Mary Ward could not be with us today. She has a stomach virus, but she sent her regards, and we have an endorsement from her. And I'm pleased to announce that we have both endorsements. I'm very grateful to have their endorsements because they're very high-quality lawyers, very high-quality people, and I'm very thankful for that. I'm glad to take questions. If anybody wants to ask me anything about anything, I can give you a campaign speech if you want it. Probably don't, but I've been a city judge for 36 years. I'm running for re-election. I'm obviously running on my record, and I believe it's a good record. I hope the voters think so too. And I've been here this morning, as a matter of fact, holding court today. And we had our usual garden variety of traffic tickets. Had a whole bunch of dog cases today, which is, we have more of those usually on Wednesday than any other day. Last night we had a hotly contested parking ticket appeal. We don't get a whole lot of those either. And I haven't had any underage consumption of alcohol in a while. We get a fair number of those during football season because of football games and UT students drinking beer. But I haven't had any of those in a while, surprisingly. I haven't had any contested coke cases in a while. That's the five major things that we hear in city court. As most of you know, the maximum penalty is a $50 fine and court costs. Nobody goes to jail. No families get divided. It's been my honor and privilege to serve in this capacity as city judge since 1986, when I was originally appointed by the late Alan Elliott. He was the last judge that sat here. Some of you may remember him or at least heard of him. He became ill and passed away while he was in office. And city council had the authority to appoint someone in his place. And I had been sitting in for him during his illness. On and off, he'd be in and out of the hospital. And he unfortunately passed away. And I applied for the job because I enjoyed the job very much. I got to know the police department somewhat by being over here, and got to know the clerks. And I'm thankful that I got the appointment. I've been here ever since. I've been here 9 terms, and this will be my 10th attempt to be re-elected. I appreciate the voters' consideration very much. I enjoy the job. I'm thankful to have it. I enjoy working with the public. I enjoy working with the police department. I enjoy working with the clerks. I enjoy working with the attorneys. We don't have too many of those. We didn't have any at all today. We had one last night, and I don't think we had any on Monday. So it's what I like to call city court the ordinary people court, because ordinary people come in here. Ordinary people have roll through stop signs, or get hit with a ticket for speeding on the interstate, or their tail lights out, or their tags are expired, or something very minor, something that's not involved in anything that's going to put them in jail. Cannot be put in jail from city court. City courts don't even have the authority to put people in jail. Not that I would want to put anybody in jail for these sort of things. I don't want to put people in jail. It's my job to listen. I enjoy listening to ordinary people because I'm ordinary people. I really like to hear these stories because I'm just like them. And so I'm thankful for the job. I'm thankful that I've had the opportunity to serve the public this way. I'm asking for your vote if you're listening to this on television or reading it on the Compass or Knox News or Knoxville News Sentinel or seeing it on television. I'd ask for your consideration for your vote. I'm thankful for the opportunity to continue to serve. glad to take any questions from the audience.
So I've got a question. You talk about the fact that there's primarily citations, right?
They're all citations.
Right. So if Knoxville Police Department gets a DUI on Kingston Pike, so that ticket or that charge doesn't come to this court. Where's it go?
That goes to Knox County General Sessions Court.
Okay.
The reason for that is if you're arrested, there's a jail sentence, mandatory if you're convicted of DUI, 48 hours for your first offense. And then judges, such as city judges, there are city judges all over the state. We have no authority to lock anybody up. In order to lock somebody up under the U.S. Constitution, you have the right to have a jury trial. I cannot give you a jury trial. As you can see, there's no jury box here. Now, Sessions Court, just for your information, doesn't have a jury box either. But since they are being charged in that court with state law violations, they have the right to a jury trial. But if the defendant doesn't want to take the offer that's offered in the General Sessions Court, then he or she has the right to go in front of the grand jury and have their case considered. They don't have that same right here. For example, codes enforcement cases, there's no state law about those things. Those are all city ordinance, pure, completely, and parking ticket appeals and that sort of thing. You can't be indicted for those sorts of things. Now you could be indicted for speeding. Okay, like there's a state law against speeding. There's a very famous case that came out several years ago where a lady was indicted, believe it or not, for not wearing a seatbelt. Now that sounds pretty serious, doesn't it? And you probably know that if you get pulled over by the police, you have to sign the citation. And if you don't sign the citation, you can be jailed. Okay? Most people know this, and every once in a while, it doesn't happen very often. If you just sign the ticket, and you can drive away. The police will all you do when you sign that ticket is promise to show up in court or take care of the ticket, pay it, come do something about it. Just don't ignore it. Okay? There was a person, I've forgotten what state it was in, she refused to sign the citation and they put her in jail for not signing the citation, not for not wearing a seatbelt. It went all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court upheld the authority of the court to have her jailed for not signing, not for not wearing a seatbelt. Seatbelt's $25 and no court cost. Doesn't even go on your record. So these sorts of misunderstandings happen all the time. And one thing I'd like to point out to you, you see that big screen TV over there? We have the ability now to watch all sorts of video of police officers. You know, police officers now have, cameras on their chest, and they also have cameras in the dashboard of their car. And it works out real well because I watched several things last night that were contested cases. It's so helpful to have this technology because sometimes it's he said, she said. You know what I mean? We don't have. That's still somewhat of a problem, but not the problem it used to be, because most of the time you can see exactly what happened and hear exactly what happened in real time, on tape. Another thing that's great about that TV, we have the ability to look at diagrams of Google Earth. This is so handy when, I think I mentioned this the other night, a car wreck, somebody pulls out and they're arguing about which lane the wreck happened in, what lane they came in from, what lane they changed, what business they pulled out of. Officers very seldom see wrecks. There's the occasional case with officers sitting at a red light and somebody next to them gets rear-ended. That's not typical at all. The typical case is they get a call, they come to the scene, piece together what happened. They ask the witnesses what happened, ask the drivers what happened, look for skid marks, look for mangled cars, and ask witnesses' statements. But now we can put up on the screen the diagram of the intersection, the diagram of the business that they pulled out of, assuming the picture's not too old, And it really helps. We have pointers and we can go over there and look at everything. The technology that we've got is really good. Another thing that we've got, which is really good, is we can translate any language in the world almost instantly. We have, not in person, but we have the ability to call a night court and day court a 1-800 number. And the city pays for this. But for any obscure language you might think about, and we can have a hearing right there for the person that long time ago, we had to go to UT or someplace and get somebody to come in here and reset the case. How inconvenient is that? Now we can do it instantly for its traffic tickets. If they're going to be threatened with jail or something, they'll have a translator in person, like they do in the state court system. And I feel like it's fine to do it for traffic tickets. We also have someone on staff that speaks Spanish. We used to have somebody that spoke French, and he got promoted and went on to a different office of the city. We still have somebody here that also speaks German, and that works out real well. We don't have a whole lot of German. We have massive numbers of Spanish, as you can imagine. But we have made great improvements over the years for the technology here in the court.
What does it mean to you
I'm sorry?
What does it mean to you to have the endorsement of your two former opponents?
Well, I'm very flattered. I'm very honored I'm very thankful. Andrew's a very fine person. Mary Ward is a very fine person. They're both very experienced lawyers. As you know, Mary Ward used to be a DA. I know his uncle. I don't know if any of y'all remember Rufus Beamer or not. He was a very fine fellow. He's a good friend of mine. He passed away. He was also an airline pilot, very sharp guy. His office is right one block down the street from me. And anyway, these people, I'm so thankful that they've endorsed me. I really appreciate their putting their faith and trust in me. And I'm thankful for that. I'm honored to have it.
The voter turnout for this upcoming election is expected to be low. Andrew, can you talk about the percentage of votes that you and Mary Ward got and how you'd like to ask that base, the same thing you did in your quote?
I think we got around 30 to 31%, right? Something like that. I think total together, I think it was something in there. Absolutely, I would be asking all of my supporters to come out and vote for Judge Rosson. And my initial thought was I probably wouldn't endorse anyone initially. And I remember thinking no one would really care what I had to say, you know, I lost. But one of my supporters did call me up almost directly after the primary and they said, you know, sorry. And I was like, that's okay. And they go, well, who should I vote for? And without blinking, I said Judge Rosson. And that's when I was like, well, I guess I probably should endorse because my, first time running for office, I certainly didn't really, it was an experience. But I can tell everyone that all of my supporters, please vote for Judge Rosson with absolute certainty. I think that you will continue to do an amazing job on the bench.
That means a lot, especially coming from you and Mary. Thank you very much.
What makes you feel that way over the other candidate?
Well, and I think that the problem, one point is, I've been around for a little while and you cannot, it's not really a dig at Mr. Cavanis, it's that this is a job. It's not a political position. It's a job. And as a lawyer, every day I'm in front of judges. Every day. And those judges are elected. But it's an expertise. It's understanding the law. It's knowing the system. And I can tell you just from my conversations with Judge Rosson, it's amazing what I didn't know even when I was running. And little things institutionally that you don't think about, even as a lawyer, you don't think about. At the debate back in July, I remember speaking with you and I said, well, I think we should do night court on Wednesdays. To me, I thought that was a smart idea. And you immediately said, oh, you can't do that because of church. And you know what? I didn't even think about that. And it made perfect sense, but it's that type of institutional knowledge and it's that type of institutional understanding that is key. And honestly, at this point, I just don't believe that Mr. Cavanis has that. And I know that Judge Rosson has it, and so it's absolutely, but I think as a lawyer and as a citizen of Knoxville, that is incredibly important.
Andrew, you've been involved in the political process for a number of years. You've participated, you voted. I've checked your voting record. The now Judge Rosson's opponent didn't register to vote until he was 25 years old. He's 31 now. He's only voted in 2 primaries. One is a Republican, one is a Democrat. And it seems like partisan politics is starting to get thrown into this by Judge Rosson's opponent. What's your thought on the partisan politic issue and in particular, maybe his lack of partisan?
I feel like I was the most partisan of everybody in the election, honestly. Like, I don't care about being honest about it. I think I probably was.
You had I think I posted a photo of you with Madeline Rojero, 8 years ago, 10 years ago.
I'm a pretty political guy. And I can tell you, of everyone in the election, I do believe, Judge Rosson, you are the most nonpartisan. Me and Mary both were the only registered, I think, Democrats. We're the ones who put Democrats on the petition. But being a judge isn't about being a Democrat, Republican, or anything else. You've always shown all the litigants in the courtroom absolute impartiality, and I've never felt one time that there was any thought, I'll rule somehow differently based on politics. I understand it's a technical nonpartisan race. I'm not. But, I think in today's world, it's pretty hard to keep the politics out of it. And I know this will be, I guess, the last, right? Because in the future, city elections are going to be party politics.
Well, the council and mayors are going to be partisan.
Yeah.
They haven't done that to the judge yet.
Okay. But I just am saying, like,
Right.
it's going to get more
Right.
partisan. I just think that the days of the nonpartisanship are kind of, honestly, a little bit behind us, and I'm not sure that's good or bad, but I think it's reality.
It's my opinion, for whatever it's worth, the judge races should stay nonpartisan, absolutely. The state of North Carolina has gone to all nonpartisan races and all their judgeship races. And I think that is a fair way to do it. But if somebody walks in here, they don't have Democrat or Republican tattooed on their forehead or their t-shirt. And nor should they. And I don't even know what your all's politics are. It's none of my business.
Well, and in actuality, there's very few people even register to vote, so you don't even know if they're a voter or not.
Well, you don't. You don't have any idea. Politics has no place in here. What I want to know is, did you run the red light? Were you speeding? Did you let the dog loose? Did you park improperly? Did you run that stop sign or not? I mean, that's what I want to know. And then I want to know if there was anything extra that you want to say about it. I always want to know that. I want to know what your history is. And I've got a young lady up here that has a little computer. And obviously, I'm going to treat a first offender much differently than I am to someone who's a serial offender. And so those are important factors, I think, for a judge to consider. Politics has no place in that consideration whatsoever, nor should it. It is somewhat unfortunate, I think, that politics has somewhat been ejected into this race. But it's a nonpartisan race, and it should be that way. Now, I will make this comment. I go to Lincoln Day dinners. I go to Truman Day dinners. There's no such thing as a nonpartisan dinner. Okay? There just isn't. And so, if you want to get elected, if you're running for the office, that's what you have to do. You have to go meet people. Well, where are you going to meet people? At these sorts of dinners. And of course, there's people on the Republican side, there's people on the Democrat side, and I go to meet both sides because that's what I want to do. I want to get both sides votes. I seek their votes, and I'd like to have their votes. And if you see this, I'd ask for your vote. And so I'm out trying to get reelected, just like every other candidate does. One reason I vote Republican primaries is important out, and I'm not disparaging Republicans here. I live in West Hills. Republican primaries usually settle the race in West Hills where I live. I won't disclose how I vote in general elections, but a great example I can give you was just last year. You'll recall that Greg Kaplan was the sole Democratic nominee in my area for state representative. I had a contested primary in my area between Janet Testamer and Lane Davis, and I voted in the Republican primary. See, Greg Kaplan, who was the Democrat, had no opponent, so a vote for him was he's going to win no matter what. A vote for either Janet Testamer or Lane Davis was going to help decide something. And that's typical for where I live. The county commission races are partisan, your state representative races, your state senator races. They're all decided almost always, not 100% of the time, but almost always where I live in West Hills in the Republican primary. That was my explanation for why I voted Republican. And I'm not apologizing now for that.
Right.
I want you to don't walk away from here saying that. But I want my vote to decide something like you all want your vote to decide.
Any other questions? Because otherwise we'll move to one-on-ones, because I know a few of you guys need to do individuals. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So this was something that was mentioned in our interview with Cabinet at WUOT. And we were wondering if you would like to respond to a statement from him that you do not start court on time and you have not done enough to update the digital information sphere of this.
What was the last part?
That you haven't done enough to update the digital information available to the public.
Talking about the internet.
Yeah, like the online presence.
The first thing I want to say about it, let me answer the second one first, I think that's easier to answer. We have no control over the internet, over the city's website. The city of Knoxville runs the website. They have their own IT department. Now we can make suggestions, and we have over the years. And there probably are some things that could be done to improve. I won't sit here and deny that. And I've gone on the website. I'm able to get on it, and I will not sit here and tell you it's the easiest thing to get on. And I don't think it's the hardest either. You can get on it if you want to. It works. We get lots of, the clerk gets lots of money paid. And I can get the clerk out here and have her talk about this if we'd like to. But they get lots of payments on the internet. So apparently it's working. All right. Now back to the other question. It's like, you should come here some morning. I'm not always on the bench. In fact, I'm seldom on the bench when the court starts. What happens? The bailiff comes out, he stands right over here. And Valerie Coleman, the city court clerk, she comes over here. And they have a list of tickets that are set for today. As you can probably imagine, a lot of people get tickets and don't show up, okay? About 1/3 of the people get tickets come in here, maybe 40%, okay? About 25% of them don't do anything. They drive on a suspended license, revoked license, whatever it is, and they just keep on driving. They don't have insurance. There's a certain segment of our population. I feel sorry for a vast majority of these people because a lot of it's an economic problem. Insurance costs money. Having a driver's license costs money. Registering your car costs money. It costs some money. And some people probably out of the misunderstanding, if they come in here, they might get in jail for all that stuff. Again, I want to emphasize, whoever hears this, nobody goes to jail from this court. Now, I'm not going to tell you you can't go to jail somewhere else for something like that, but in this court, it will not happen. Anyway, they call the roll, if you will, and they find out who's here. When I first started being the judge back in 1986, that's been a little while ago, when I would come to court, they'd have a lot of officers over here waiting for their cases to be called because, if they wanted to plead not guilty, have a hearing, we would have a hearing. The officer would be right there and bang, bang, bang. We can't do that anymore because there's such a shortage of police officers. And so what we do, when they call the roll and find out who's here, they have a list. How do you want to plead? Guilty, not guilty, or no contest? If they're pleading not guilty, then they will call the officer in. And that takes some time to get them in here. And then when the officer comes in, we'll have their hearing as soon as they show up, and then we'll let them go back outside on patrol, where I think it's probably much more important than me anyway. Having said that, this streamlines the system. It makes it work very well. It's very efficient once we get going. The clerk finds out who's got their headlight fixed, who's got their tail light fixed, who's got their brake light fixed, if they've had a mangled bumper or something, or a cracked windshield. We get a ton of those things. If they have a receipt or something like that, they just dismiss those cases. I'll sign off on them later. But this takes a little bit of time. When they call the roll, they find out what people are charged with and how they're going to plead. Some people actually plead not guilty. We had a not guilty plea last night on a tag charge. This gentleman claimed, it turned out that he was actually guilty. It turned out it was a record. He had a tag that was expired, but he didn't know it. He blamed his boss. I won't bore you with the details. He didn't plead not guilty to anything. But the point is, the officer wasn't here. We got him in here as quickly as we could and got the defendant out the door. Okay, I'll let him go because I do think it was his boss's fault that he didn't have the tag on him. But he was technically guilty because he had an expired tag. But the point is, we always do that, what I call administrative, ministerial type stuff first. And that takes some time, okay? Then I come in, and it's very streamlined. If somebody wants to plead guilty to a traffic ticket, the clerks can't do moving violations. They can do improper equipment cases, headlight, taillight, brake light, no insurance, no registration, no license. They can do all that. But when it comes to speeding or red lights or stop sign, I have to hear that. So then I hear all those. If they plead guilty, they want a break, I'll listen to that. I consider their record, the degree of their offense, that sort of thing. Then I'll also have a trial. And I had a bunch of those last night. We didn't get out here last night until I guess a little bit after 8 o'clock. And we started at 5:30. And we didn't have that many cases. But a lot of these cases take a lot of time because they have witnesses. We had several witnesses involved in these dog cases. And so I want to emphasize the fact court does start on time. I'm just not here. And there's no reason for me to sit here when they're asking people, if you got your headlight fixed? First of all, was it out? If it was out, you have it fixed. Yes, here's I can show pictures on their cell phones. Your cell phones are great because you can take a picture of anything. And sometimes they'll have them go outside and take a picture of it in the parking lot and bring it back in. And then that works out real well. But anyway, the point is they can get that stuff dismissed at the beginning of court, those more simple things, and not waste time sitting here all day. Okay. I don't know if does that answer your question?
As a follow-up to her question, obviously Mr. Cavanis has been running against you since the spring of this year. Do you ever recall Mr. Cavanis being in here as either as someone who's been cited or as an attorney representing anyone who's been cited?
I do not recall ever seeing him in here. I'm not going to say 100% he's never been here. I'm not, because I didn't really know who he was. don't take that personally. Until we've had several young lawyers come through here over the years, and I'm not going to say I'm not. I do not. My answer is going to be I don't remember seeing him.
Right, that's fair enough. Cool. I'm
Any
done.
more questions? Great. So we'll move to one-on-one.